Hello, everyone. I want to start today by describing a specific feeling, and I want you to be honest with yourself about whether you felt it recently. It's
Mm,
not laziness. It
mhm.
isn't apathy. It's actually the exact opposite.
Right.
You are working incredibly hard. You are obsessing over a problem. Maybe it's your career path, maybe a relationship that's hit a wall, or just that general sense of life not moving forward.
You're really trying.
You're trying so hard. You're expending a massive amount of energy trying to figure it out. You're making pros and cons lists. You're losing sleep, asking friends for advice. And yet, despite all that effort, all that calorie burn, you remain completely and utterly stuck.
It is the classic state of paralysis by analysis. I mean, the engine is redlining, the tachometer is screaming, but the transmission is in neutral,
The transmission's in neutral. You aren't moving an inch.
not at edge.
Exactly. And it's exhausting. It's actually more tiring than, doing physical labor because there's no output to show for it.
Not at all.
So, today we are tackling this head on. We are going back to the work of Ernest S. Holmes, specifically his book Creative Mind and Success. We're looking at a section that deals with understanding and guidance.
And I think we should say the promise of this material is pretty aggressive.
It really is. The claim Holmes makes is that there is a mechanical way, not a magical way, but a mechanical, repeatable way to stop guessing.
And to know exactly what to do next.
And that's the key phrase, isn't it? What to do next. We aren't trying to figure out the next 20 years. We're just trying to find the immediate next step.
Just to break the deadlock.
Yeah.
Precisely. We're going to break down three things. First, the mechanics of confusion, like why your brain physically cannot find the answer when you're stressed out.
Okay.
Second, the specific protocol Holmes suggests, which creates this quiet listen state. And third, how to actually act on what you find without needing a guarantee for the future.
If this episode helps you, please hit like and subscribe for the next one.
So let's get into the definition.
Okay, so let's talk about this word guidance. When I hear that, especially in a text from, the early 20th century, my skepticism radar goes up a little.
Of course. It sounds a bit woo-woo.
It does. It sounds like we're waiting for a burning bush or some booming voice from the clouds to say, turn left at Albuquerque. Is that what Holmes is talking about?
Not at all.
Yeah.
And this is why Holmes is so interesting. He really does bridge that gap between the spiritual and the pragmatic.
Mm-hmm.
When he talks about guidance, he isn't talking about hallucinations or external voices. He's talking about a shift in your cognitive state. He defines it as moving from surface turmoil to one-pointed thought.
One-pointed thought. Okay, that sounds like extreme focus. It's more than focus. It's clarity. Think of it this way. Your brain is a processing engine. It has access to millions of data points, memories, observations, patterns you've seen that your conscious mind just can't hold all at once.
Right.
We often call this the subconscious, or Holmes calls it the spirit of all knowledge. When you're in that state of panic, you're basically cut off from that database. Okay.
So guidance is simply the method of reestablishing the connection to your own deeper intelligence to retrieve a specific instruction.
So it's an information retrieval problem. The file is there, but the system is frozen.
That it's a perfect analogy. The data exists.
Uh-huh.
The solution usually exists before you even acknowledge the problem, but you just can't access it because of all the static.
Which leads us to the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Why is there so much static? Holmes identifies what we could call clarity blockers. What is physically happening in our minds that prevents us from just seeing the answer?
He identifies four main blockers. The first one is what he calls mental noise, or the condition of the surface of the mind. He uses a water analogy here that I think is just timeless.
The lake, right? I remember this.
Yes. Imagine a lake. If the surface of the water is perfectly still, it acts like a mirror. It reflects the sky and the trees perfectly. You can see right into the depths.
Crystal clear.
But if the wind is blowing, if there are waves, if you're, throwing rocks into it, the surface is just churning. It reflects nothing but broken, distorted light.
And that's us when we're stressed.
That is the modern mind almost constantly. We are always agitating the surface with notifications, with worries, doom scrolling, these what-if scenarios.
Yeah.
And Holmes argues that when the surface of the mind is turbulent, it is physically impossible for it to reflect a clear image of the solution. It's not that the solution isn't there, it's that the receiver is too shaky to display it.
That makes so much sense. You can't see a reflection in a boiling pot.
Exactly.
But the second blocker he mentions is the one I struggle with the most. He talks about urgency or strenuous effort. Now, I have to push back here a bit. Isn't effort a good thing? We're taught that if we're stuck, We just need to try harder.
Push the rock faster.
Yeah. Why does Holmes say that's a bad thing?
This is probably the most counterintuitive part of his whole philosophy.
Mm.
In the physical world, effort moves objects. If I want to move a sofa, I push harder.
Mm.
Simple.
Right.
But in the mental world, specifically when you're looking for creative solutions or insight, strenuous effort actually signals resistance.
Yeah.
Think about the energy of trying really hard to solve something.
Mm-hmm.
What's the underlying emotion? It's usually fear. It's the belief that I don't have the answer.
Oh, interesting.
When you are straining, you are vibrating with the lack of a solution. You are tightening up. Physiologically, you're in a sympathetic nervous system state, fight or flight. And that part of your brain is designed for survival, not for complex, nuanced insight.
Right. It's for running from a tiger, not for career planning.
Exactly. So the harder you try to force an answer, the more you actually inhibit the part of your brain that generates the solutions in the first place.
It's like trying to remember a name. It's right on the tip of your tongue. You squeeze your brain, you grit your teeth, and you just can't find it.
And what happens the moment you give up and go wash the dishes?
It pops right into my head. Steve. Of course it's Steve.
Exactly. Because you stopped the strenuous effort, you relaxed the tension, the surface of the lake calmed down, and the data just bubbled up.
Mm.
Holmes is trying to get us to that dishwashing state for our biggest life problems.
Okay, so stop squeezing the brain. I get it. The third blocker is contradiction, or what he calls double-mindedness.
This one is huge. Double-mindedness is when you set an intention or you ask for guidance, but you simultaneously hold a belief that denies it.
Okay.
Holmes writes, our unity with our good is not established while there's anything in us that denies it.
Can you give me a real-world example of that? Because I think we all do this without even noticing.
Oh, constantly. Sure. Let's say you are looking for a new career path. You sit down and you say, I'm going to find a job that is fulfilling and pays well. That's the intention.
Yep.
But in the very next microsecond, a little background program runs in your head that says, but the economy is terrible and I'm 45 and nobody is hiring in my field.
I do that constantly. It's like I'm hedging my bets against disappointment.
Right. But what you're really doing is stepping on the gas and the brake at the exact same time. The engine makes a lot of noise. That's the exhaustion we talked about. But the car doesn't move. You are neutralizing your own request.
What?
You just cannot receive guidance for a path you fundamentally don't believe exists.
And the final blocker is external fixation, looking at the conditions.
Yes. And this links right back to the double-mindedness.
Hmm.
Holmes gives that example of a man saying, I am too old to compete, or times are hard. He's looking at the external world, the statistics, the news, his bank account, and letting those conditions dictate his internal possibility.
Right.
Holmes would argue that you're looking at the effect rather than the cause. And if you believe the external wall is solid, your mind simply stops looking for the door.
So we have a turbulent mind, we're straining too hard, we're contradicting ourselves, and we're obsessing over the obstacles. It's a miracle we ever get anything done.
It explains why so many of us feel like we're just wading through mud all the time.
Yeah, so let's pivot to the solution. How do we actually fix this? Holmes gives us a method. We're calling it the quiet and listen method. But I want to get specific here because just saying be quiet is so much easier said than done.
It really is. The first step is what Holmes calls the silence. But you have to understand the context. Holmes was writing this in the early 20th century, a time when physics was just starting to really understand the structure of the atom.
He uses this fascinating metaphor here, the nucleus. I must have missed that in the reading. Walk me through the nucleus idea.
Okay, so he says to imagine yourself as the nucleus of an atom. In an atom, the nucleus is the stable center. It doesn't run around, it holds its position.
Right.
And because it holds its position, the electrons, the energy, revolve around it in a specific, orderly orbit.
So the stability of the center creates the order of the entire system.
Exactly. He says we need to become that stable center. When we're frantic, we're like an electron trying to be a nucleus. We are flying around looking for order, but order comes from the center.
I see.
So step one of the method is to physically and mentally stop moving, to become the center.
So this isn't just relaxing. This is an active assumption of authority, almost.
Yes. It is a state of expectancy. You quiet the surface of the lake, not just to rest, but to prepare it to receive a clear image.
Okay, so I'm sitting there. I'm the nucleus. I'm steady. What do I do next? Do I just wait?
You make a declaration. This is where you program the search engine. You state internally, but with conviction, something like, intelligence is guiding me, or the answer is making itself known to me now.
And this is where the modern science comes in, right? Because this sounds a bit like magic, but there's a biological mechanism at play here.
There is. We're talking about the reticular activating system, or the RAS. It's a bundle of nerves at our brainstem that filters out unnecessary information so the important stuff can get through.
The red car effect.
That's the one.
Mm-hmm.
If you decide to buy a red car, you suddenly see red cars everywhere. They were always there, but your RAS was just filtering them out as unimportant.
Right.
Now that you've tagged red car as important, it lets them in. So when you sit in silence and declare, I am being guided to a solution, you are effectively reprogramming your RAS. You are telling your brain, filter for the answer.
So the silence lowers the noise floor, and the declaration tunes the frequency.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
You are priming your brain to spot the pattern or the opportunity that you were previously too stressed to see.
But then comes the hardest part, the waiting. Holmes says it may not come at first, but we must be patient, never doubting. I have to be honest, I'm terrible at this. I sit for 30 seconds, I don't get a lightning bolt, and I reach for my phone.
And that is the addiction to the surface turmoil. The waiting is the test. You have to hold that space open. It might take 5 minutes, it might take an hour, it might come while you're in the shower the next morning, but you have to maintain that state of what I call Google confidence.
Google confidence.
Yeah. When you type a query into Google and hit enter, you don't panic that the internet is empty. You just wait for the results to load because you trust the system works. You need that same kind of trust in your own subconscious processing.
Okay, so let's assume we get a result. We've waited. Holmes talks about following up a thought. But how do I distinguish a guidance thought from just a regular thought or a fear thought?
It's a great question. Holmes describes guidance as a direct impression. And it usually has a different quality than your normal mental chatter.
Okay.
Chatter is usually repetitive, it's anxious, it's complex. What if I do this, but then she says that, but then this might happen?
No, that whole spiral.
Guidance is usually simple, calm, and direct.
Yeah.
It's often just a command. Call Sarah. Go to the library, write the email.
It's not a 10-year plan.
Never. And that is where people trip up. They want the whole map. Holmes says you only get the lamp under my feet, you just get enough light for the next step. And the rule is, you have to take it. Immediate action. Holmes is very strict about this. He says, when we feel that we do have the right leading, we must follow it up. Even if it seems trivial, even if it seems weird. Let's make this concrete. I want to run through 3 scenarios because I think we need to see how this plays out in the real world. Scenario 1, career stagnation. Okay, let's do it.
So I'm in a job I hate. I feel trapped. I'm 40 years old. I have a mortgage. The panic response is to update my resume and apply to 50 jobs I don't even want on LinkedIn at 2 in the morning.
Which is the strenuous effort approach. It's born of total panic.
Right. So applying the Holmes method, I stop, I sit, I become the nucleus, I ask for guidance.
Right.
And let's say the thought that pops into my head is, take a woodworking class.
Great example. Now, the logical mind, the double-mindedness, will immediately attack that thought. Woodworking? Are you kidding me? I need money, not a birdhouse. That's a total waste of time.
Exactly. I'd dismiss it instantly.
And that is the mistake. Guidance is nonlinear. Your subconscious knows that you are burnt out, and you need to engage your hands and your creative brain to reset your dopamine levels.
Huh.
Or, for all you know, it knows that the person who is going to offer you your next job is also taking that woodworking class.
Wow.
You cannot see the connection from where you were sitting. You have to take the step to reveal the next link in the chain.
So if the intuition is woodworking, you just sign up for the class. You don't ask why.
You act. You trust the intelligence is smarter than your anxiety.
Scenario 2. This one is from the book, and I actually laughed when I read it, but I want you to explain the science behind it. Stagnation. Just feeling in a rut.
Oh, the furniture advice. I love this one.
Yes. Holmes writes, go home and change the bed around. Put the cook stove in the parlor.
Put the cook stove in the parlor. I mean, it sounds like nonsense. But think about neuroplasticity. When you are in a rut, your brain is in a deep, deep groove. You wake up, you walk the same path to the bathroom, you sit in the same chair, you eat the same food. Your brain is on autopilot. It is literally in sleep mode.
So moving the furniture is a hack. It's a pattern interrupt. By physically changing your environment, you force your brain to wake up and process new spatial data. You break the loop. If you move your bed to the other wall, you wake up in a new room. That slight disorientation fires up new neural pathways. It signals to your subconscious things are changing. So if you're mentally stuck, physically move something.
Shake the snow globe. It resets the system.
Scenario 3. Relationship conflict. I'm fighting with my partner or a difficult boss. I'm rehearsing the argument in the shower. I'm planning my zingers.
Which is just churning the lake water. You're just muddying the reflection.
So I sit, I ask for guidance, and the answer is, say nothing.
That is often the hardest guidance to follow. The ego wants to win. The ego wants to be right. But the guidance says silence. Holmes talks about the charm of personality being the power to radiate a certain energy. If you enter that meeting with the boss and you have followed the guidance to be silent and calm, you have changed your magnetic circle.
You're not reacting to their storm. You're the nucleus again.
Exactly. And because you aren't reacting, they have nothing to push against.
Yeah.
Often the conflict just dissolves simply because you refuse to provide the resistance. You change the dynamic by changing your internal state.
I want to try this right now. Not moving furniture, but the internal part. I want to walk the listener through a one clear next step exercise.
Let's do it.
Okay. If you were driving, please keep your eyes open, but you can do this mentally. If you can sit down, do it. This is going to be really short.
Stop. Physically stop moving. Unclench your jaw. Drop your shoulders away from your ears. Calm the surface. Imagine that churning lake in your mind. Just visualize the wind dying down, the waves settling, the water becoming like glass, a perfect mirror.
Ask. Ask one specific question. What is the one thing I need to do regarding Project X? Don't ask for the solution to the whole problem. Just ask, what is my next step?
Listen.
We're going to take 10 seconds of silence here. Don't force an answer. Just wait for the first usable image or thought that comes to mind.
Commit.
Whatever came up, even if it was drink a glass of water or clean your desk, commit to doing it. That is your thread. Pull on it.
It's amazing how loud the silence can be when you actually listen to it. But I know people will try this and they'll struggle.
Yeah.
Holmes has that section called Where So Many Fail. I want to troubleshoot this. What are the common mistakes?
The biggest one is merely wishing. Holmes says most people fail because they wish for things rather than knowing them.
What's the difference?
Wishing is passive. It implies you don't have it. I wish I knew what to do actually reinforces the state of confusion. Knowing is active. It's the stance of, the answer is here, I am just tuning into it.
It's a subtle but powerful shift.
It's a huge shift in authority.
The second mistake is bargaining. This is what I'm guilty of. Universe, if you give me $1 million idea, I promise I'll donate half of it.
Right, or I'll take the woodworking class, but only if you guarantee it leads to a career. That is trying to negotiate with the process. It shows you don't actually trust the guidance.
You're trying to control the outcome.
Exactly. You have to let go of the need to control the destination and just trust the step. Mistake number 3, talking too much. Holmes says, keep it to yourself. Don't talk to anyone about it. This goes against all the modern advice of accountability partners. Why does he want us to be so secretive? This is about energy conservation. When you first get a new idea or a new direction, it is fragile. It's like a little sprout. If you immediately run out and tell your skeptical friend or your worried mother, they might say, that sounds risky, or why would you do that?
And poof, the confidence is just gone.
It's gone. But there's another layer to it. Holmes believes that secrecy builds internal pressure. If you have a big idea and you don't talk about it, the energy has nowhere to go but into action. If you talk about it constantly, you release that pressure. You get a little dopamine hit just from telling people what you're going to do, which can trick your brain into thinking you've already done it.
Leaking the energy.
Yeah.
That is fascinating. So zip it.
Until you have results, then let the results speak for themselves.
And the last mistake is delaying action.
We touched on this, but it bears repeating. Guidance has a shelf life. If you get the intuitive hit to call Sarah at 10 in the morning and you wait until 5 in the evening, doubt has had 7 hours to grow.
Yeah.
The logic brain has built a fortress against the intuition. You have to strike while the channel is open.
All right, we've covered a massive amount of ground. I want to boil this down. If you are listening and you feel like your brain is full, here is the checklist, the 7 takeaways from Holmes.
Confusion is just surface noise. The clarity is always underneath.
Stop struggling. Strenuous effort blocks the flow.
Sit in the silence until you become the stable nucleus.
Wait for one clear idea. Just one.
Act on it immediately.
Do not contradict your guidance with doubt. Stop stepping on the brake.
Keep your counsel. Don't gossip about your plans.
It's a different way of operating. I mean, it's scary to let go of the straining, but the alternative is staying stuck.
Exactly. You can either fight the current or you can quiet the mind and learn to steer the boat. Next time, we're taking this a step further. Because once you have this guidance, once you start moving, you run into a new problem. Other people. How do you stand on your own 2 feet without needing constant validation? That is the topic of our next one. Self-reliance, don't be a leaner. We're going to talk about why leaning on others for your mental stability is, well, a recipe for disaster.
You won't want to miss that. Thanks for being here. If you want the full series, check the playlist, and please like and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode.